bring in Peter King, NBCSports.com columnist, of course, the great column that you can read every Monday morning, Football Morning in America. Pete, good morning. How's morale?
Morale is fine. The draft is over. The long national nightmare of hype for 2 months over a 7-round event is over. And so it's always a happy day the Monday after the draft in the King House.
Yeah, I know that you're so deeply involved in it, but, you know, for the outsider looking in, I mean, it gives hope to everybody. And that's what's great. What sporting event gives hope quite like the draft does? That we're talking about Jacksonville, we're talking about the Jets, we're talking about the Lions, the Bengals. That's all you ask for is hope.
I went to Jacksonville on Friday, Dan, and I watched Trevor Lawrence get limoed into the stadium with a crew of third graders there holding signs and screaming for Trevor Lawrence like it was a crowd at LaGuardia Airport or whatever it was called when the Beatles came in, or JFK. And it was just cute and fun. And, you know, Shad Khan, he's worth $8 billion. He's 70 years old. And he was jittery and nervous. He's just like a little kid. And so that's fun. I really, really do enjoy that part of it. I just think it's just unbelievable what it's become. Kyle Shanahan told me over the weekend, he goes, it was unbelievable to sit back and watch this, honestly, with everybody in the world screaming at us for taking Mac Jones. And we weren't going to take him, and we just couldn't say anything. So anyway, yeah, it was a weird draft process.
But do you think it started because of the speculation of what kind of quarterback Kyle Shanahan wanted, and the people who were speculating know the Shanahan? Adam Schefter is friends with the Shanahans. Chris Sims is great friends with Kyle Shanahan.
Yeah, I mean, he was a college teammate of his at the University of Texas. So I think, you know, it's a total, absolutely understandable storm, because understand one thing, Dan, this is from 35 minutes on the phone with Kyle Shanahan this weekend. I can tell you categorically that they very seriously considered Mac Jones. And I would not have been shocked after listening to Kyle Shanahan talk about how much he loved Mac Jones if 3 days before the draft, he said to John Lynch, hey, are we sure? You know, we love Mac Jones, but I do think there is this element of 2021 football and beyond that really drew them to Trey Lance, and the element of making the sort of off-schedule plays, and the simple fact, Dan, as I said in my column, there's 2 minutes and 37 seconds in my column today that anybody who really likes football and who wants to know, why did the 49ers pick Trey Lance? Kyle Shanahan explains it in perfect, almost excruciating detail about the process he went through and what he did. And I just let him go. And I think he understood exactly what he wanted. And he came to grips with the fact that he loved Mac Jones's accuracy, loved it. He's had the most accurate season in the history of major college football this year. But I think at the end of the day, he was happy enough with Trey Lance's accuracy and loved all the other parts potentially of his game that Trey Lance brought.
He's Peter King. The column is Football Morning in America, NBCSports.com. Give me the teams that feel like they really changed this weekend.
I think the New York Jets feel like they changed. They added so many good offensive pieces. And again, look, they've been drafting quarterbacks forever since Namath left. And quite honestly, no one knows if he's going to be Broadway Zach or not. But they drafted guys who they can see tomorrow are going to give Zach Wilson a real chance. And I think the biggest one they drafted was a 4th-round running back named Michael Carter, who I think everybody in New York feels like easily could be a starting player there very soon. I think the 2 other teams that did really well, like in their own eyes, I think the Detroit Lions getting the best tackle in this draft to do what Dan Campbell wants so badly, not bite kneecaps, but to control the line of scrimmage and to be a leader and to like being in Detroit, which not all players do. But he was just so enthusiastic about it. And I think they had a good draft through and through. The other team is the Miami Dolphins, because I think Jalen Waddle, first of all, there's so many good, explosive players in this draft. But the thing that Jalen Waddle gives you is the ability maybe to have drafted a very good wide receiver plus Devin Hester. He might be this generation's great returner. And I just think those are a few of the things when you look at, what teams did, they really changed their teams.
Give me the team that you don't understand their strategy.
Well, I mean, I hate to be a cliche, but I just, the Raiders picking Alex Leatherwood at 17 was just a really weird pick to me, because I think I would be surprised if they weren't able to move down, with somebody to get something. Because I did a lot of pre-draft work on the mock draft and all that. And I'm serious. I just never heard Alex Leatherwood's name. And so maybe somebody would have taken him at 20 or 21 or 22. I don't know. But I thought that was weird. And unfortunately, because I really like Mike Mayock and I think he's very, very good at his job, he's had a couple of high picks bomb out, or at least not fulfill the promise, Cleveland Ferrell and Damon Arnett so far. And I think there's a lot of pressure coming in that Alex Leatherwood has got to pretty much play from day one.
Why do you think Denver shied away from a quarterback in the first round?
I just don't think there was one they loved as much as they thought they should to pick one either at 7 if they thought they had to trade up a little bit, or to pick one that high. And I think the other thing is, Dan, look, Vic Fangio, and this has nothing to do, well, Vic Fangio's a defensive coach, so of course they're going to take Patrick Surtain. I think they wanted to take a great player at 9. And George Payton, this wasn't about, he could have taken a quarterback at 9 if he was in love with Justin Fields or Mac Jones. But clearly by what they did, Denver wasn't really in love with one of these quarterbacks and figured that, hey, look, Drew Lock, Teddy Bridgewater, they'll get us through this year. We'll revisit it at the end of the year.
What's Jimmy G's status in San Francisco?
I honestly think he's going to start opening day. And, he might not, but I remember talking to John Lynch when the trade happened. And one of the things he said is that, look at what's happened to us in the years that we did not get a full season with a really good quarterback. Look, everybody looks at the 49ers as a great franchise, but in 3 of the 4 years of John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan, they've won 6, 6, and 4 games. Everybody's kind of blinded by the Super Bowl year. And probably, they should be. Injuries really killed them last year. But the fact is, they did not want to be stuck with only one good quarterback. The only way they were trading Jimmy Garoppolo is if they got a 1 for him this year. And I don't know if New England ever offered that 2nd-round pick for him. But that would not have been good enough this year for the 49ers, because they believe they're not going to get caught short at the quarterback position again.
Texans draft a quarterback, Davis Mills out of Stanford. Is there more to this?
I think so. I don't care what they say. I mean, you're an expansion team. The Houston Texans are an expansion team. You have 1 pick in the top 80 of this draft, 1 pick, and you pick a quarterback. Yeah. When you have a quarterback on your roster who is 25 years old, you've just given $1 jillion to. I mean, look, I'm sorry, with Nick Caserio saying, oh, no, this is not about any one person, or whatever his quote was. I mean, that's silly. I believe this was the most meaningful pick in this draft, at least as far as I'm concerned, as to what it said about the current roster.
Which now leads us to Aaron Rodgers. What if you're summing up what happened in the last week and where we are today, Monday morning at 9:36 Eastern, how would you do that?
Obviously this has been in the works for a while. Aaron Rodgers has been unhappy. I think it dates to last year's draft where they drafted his successor. And evidently did not tell him that they were drafting his successor. And so with that being the case, the interesting part of this, Dan, going forward, I think this all just didn't happen in the last year. I think this is me just simply reading the tea leaves. I've not talked to Aaron Rodgers, so I can't say this for sure. But in my opinion, Aaron Rodgers has to be feeling like, look, the Packers have been doing business the same way since Ron Wolf took the job 30 years ago. And that is general manager picks players, coaches coach players, players play football. And that's it. Okay. Like, I don't know this, but I mean, would Brian Gutekunst or would the coaches ever call him in and say, hey, what do you think? What do you think we should do? Or what do you think of this practice squad player or whatever? And I just don't think that happens. And I think he's got some of the same frustration probably as Russell Wilson has. Listen to me. I'm out there. I'm the guy who is sort of the titular head of this franchise that as I go, so goes the franchise. Talk to me, consider me. And it's just not the way the Packers do things. And I don't know that they're going to change, Dan, and I'm just telling you, this reminds me so much of exactly what happened 10 years ago with Carson Palmer. He told the Bengals, I'm not playing for you. He had played there 7 years. I'm not playing for you anymore. I'll retire. Yeah, sure, you'll retire. Then he retired. And the Raiders called the Bengals that October after Jason Campbell got hurt and said, we want to make a trade for Carson Palmer. And they did it. And so this wouldn't surprise me. As you know, Aaron Rodgers is very strong-willed. And if he feels in any way like he's been wronged, I just think he's gonna hold his ground.
And when we talked to Rodgers a couple of weeks ago, and I said, take me back to that draft night. And he said, look, I'm watching just like you are, and I find out we're drafting a quarterback. I think in a situation like that, Pete, I don't think quarterbacks should be involved in drafting because they don't know anything about this. But also, unless it's Joe Burrow with Jamar Chase and you go, okay, I trust your instincts. Free agency, you played with a guy, you want to bring in Gronk, Antonio Brown, Tom Brady. All right, I'll give that to you. But if you're going to draft a quarterback's replacement, then I think you at least have to say, I don't want you to be shocked, but
right.
That's all. That's a courtesy that I think that he has earned in Green Bay. He doesn't have to be involved in personnel decisions, but when you're drafting your successor and you're sitting there having a drink and all of a sudden the Packers are on the clock and they draft your successor, to me, that's a slap in the face.
I agree with you. And if that's exactly the way it happened, I don't agree with that. You shouldn't handle things that way. And look, deep down, maybe some in the Packers would say, good. It stuck a little cattle prod up his rear end, and he had maybe the best year of his life. He certainly had one of them, and he was the MVP. But still, I don't want to motivate people by that way. I think you've got to be upfront with guys who've been so great and so valuable for your franchise.
Is Aaron Rodgers the starting quarterback for the Packers week 1?
My bet would be no. I mean, I don't see it. I just think this is going to get particularly ugly. There's not going to be any media people who are going to have any vacation between now and Labor Day weekend. Sorry, everybody. And I just think if at some point, I think Green Bay's might have to come to the realization that they're either going to be playing Jordan Love, or if they think he's not ready, they got to go find somebody. Maybe they look, I mean, how in the world could this ever happen? but maybe they look 3 hours south and look at Nick Foles, who seems to be a man without a country in Chicago. And how crazy would it be if Nick Foles outduels Andy Dalton early in the season in a Bears-Packers match? I don't know what'll happen, but
who would be in line for Rodgers? Like, if you know Gruden loves any quarterback that's not his quarterback. But
look, I think Gruden. I think Gruden. I'm and I don't know how they could do it. I think Gruden would love to have Aaron Rodgers throwing Julio Jones this fall. And again, I don't know how they can do it or what they would do, but I just think if I'm looking at it, I think the Packers would probably consider an AFC team because they don't want Aaron Rodgers ruining their dreams until the Super Bowl. So, Denver seems to make sense, and the Raiders seem to make sense. And obviously there's a bunch of other teams, but if you're Aaron Rodgers, and if you're the Packers, you like to find a team who looks at Aaron Rodgers as the missing piece to really get us over that hump. Those are two teams that really stick out, even though, Carr is certainly not a totally expendable guy. And the other thing you look at, Dan, is what could they trade? I mean, I think getting Derek Carr back would be pretty good, and maybe the next 2 ones from Vegas. I don't know how exactly they would make a trade like that, but they would have to give, I think, Derek Carr and something pretty significant.
Pete, thanks for joining us as always. Love the shirt. Manny's Pale Ale in Seattle.
It's fantastic. Yeah, it's my go-to when I'm out there, which is not nearly enough. Not nearly often enough, I mean.
Thank you, Pete.
Okay, Dan, take care.
That's Peter King. Football Morning in America is the column, NBCSports.com.